Hey, this is Bill for Sparky Channel, and today we have Nate with us from DeWalt, and he's going to answer our questions about the new Flexvolt Advantage, which claims to give 77% more power to tools that use the FlexVolt batteries as opposed to the 20-volt max batteries. So, how you doing today, Nate?
Hey, doing good, Bill, and I'm excited to be here to talk about, our newest launch of innovation from DeWalt.
Go ahead, tell us about it.
All right, yeah, so we've got our new FlexVolt Advantage tools that have just launched. You're gonna have a hammer drill, a recip saw, a circular saw, and a grinder.
Uh-huh.
And the circular saw is gonna be that one that's gonna get you the most power up to that 77%, and then the others vary a little bit from about 50% and up. And what that is we've improved the electronics in the tools, as well as some of the motors and internal electronic components, and then additional software changes. And now those tools have the ability to identify which pack is put on the tool. So if I was to take the hammer drill, put a 5 amp hour 20 volt pack on it, like DCB 205, I'm going
Uh-huh.
to get similar power to what I used to get out of my XR tools, like a DCD 996. However, when I put the 6 amp hour DCB 606 FlexVolt battery on there, I'll be able to get about 48% more power out of the tool. And what that is in the past, we've had to limit the amount of power we draw out of a battery because we've got a lot of very small batteries, in our 2 amp hour units, things of that nature. And you didn't want to pull too much battery power out of those at a time because it could damage the pack. Now, though, because the tool's smart enough to know that it has a smaller pack on it, it will adjust its power output accordingly and only pull the power that the battery is capable of delivering. And so you start to see a varied range of power outputs based on the size of battery. So the good news is that for anyone who's been using some of our XR 20 volt tools over the years, they're still going to see similar power outputs to what they had before with the 20 volt packs. But when they put that FlexVolt battery on there, that's when they're going to see that advantage and that increase in power.
Do you get the FlexVolt Advantage with any FlexVolt battery, or just in particular the 6 amp FlexVolt battery?
No, so any FlexVolt battery will give you that advantage. All of our testing and claims are based on that 6 amp hour one. So you actually, if you put the 9 amp hour pack onto it, you'd see a little bit more power come out of it
Oh,
versus the 6 amp hour. So it could increase even more. But as we're selling them with the 6 amp hour packs and some configurations, and we know a lot of users out there in the market today have already invested in that 6 amp hour pack. We wanted to make sure they knew the power output they were going to get with that particular unit.
okay. Discuss the difference in power between using a 6 amp hour FlexVolt and a 9 amp hour FlexVolt.
So I don't have specific numbers that we've done, all the testing for legal claims on, but you'll see the improvement because the pack impedance, because of it being larger and having a different cell configuration, will allow it to pull more power out faster than you can on even the 6. And it's a similar thing to the 20 volt packs. Based on the cell configuration and cell styles that are in them, you can't pull the power out as quickly as you can with a FlexVolt pack.
To me, this sounds like revolutionary technology if it really indeed works. And I've used the saw, and I was amazed at the power from a 20 volt max tool. Of course, I was using the FlexVolt battery, the 6 amp hour FlexVolt battery, but it felt like a 60 volt max tool.
Yeah, and they're certainly catching up with where we were on our initial 60 volt launch 4 or 5 years ago. They, the power output we can get because of the new technology is just so much greater. We were able to upgrade the 60 volt tools, the circular saw, the recip, and the grinder earlier this year. So those actually have more power than they did when they initially launched. And then we are able to fill the gap that they left by increasing the power output with these 20 volt with FlexVolt Advantage tools. And to your point on the circular saw, I had to cut some pressure treated 2x12s here at my house one day.
Yeah.
And I have an XR saw and it would cut it, but I had to go a little slower than I would have liked because I was in a hurry. I happened to have a prototype of that new saw in my truck. I went out and I grabbed it and I was able to push it through just as fast as I wanted to. And I got the job done a little quicker that way.
Yeah, I was surprised. How close is it to an actual 60-volt max tool?
If you have the original circular saws and tools, you're going to still be a couple hundred watts off, give or take, depending on the tool. If you have the newer 60-volt tools that launched earlier this year, you're considerably different. We were able to increase the power on those by quite a bit.
5% more?
I don't have an exact
don't
number
know.
for you,
Okay.
Bill, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah, not off
But
the top of my head here.
you'll be able to feel it though when you like use the saw and so forth.
Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing here. I could tell you numbers, I could tell you specs, but until you put it in your hand and you feel the difference yourself and realize how much easier the application is that you're doing, numbers are only numbers at a certain point.
Okay. Can we go to some of the viewers' questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Here we go. Thanks, Bill, for getting a DeWalt rep to answer our questions. What does DeWalt mean that their FlexVolt Advantage has more power? They say 77% more power. Does the tool have 77% longer runtime than with a 20-volt max? Does it mean FlexVolt Advantage has 77% more torque than with a 20-volt max? Does it mean the FlexVolt Advantage has 77% motor speed, that'd be RPMs, than the 20-volt max? And thanks, and I hope you guys stay safe. So,
Yeah, no,
what do you think?
Yeah, great question. So,
Yeah,
all of our power measurements are based off of max watts out. So you're going to see that increase of max watts out. And again, the circular saws, that's 77%. You'll see, I believe it's 54% on the grinder. See, there is a bit of a variation there based on the upgrades that were done. But yeah, you're going to see more watts out. So think of it as horsepower in your car, right? You can put a lot of horsepower in an engine, and you can keep increasing that and give yourself more power at the rear wheels.
I think of it as current. I'm an electrician.
Absolutely,
so current equals voltage divided by resistance.
Yep.
So the only way you're going to get more current is to increase that voltage or reduce the resistance. It's current that's really going to drive that saw or so forth. It must be, to me, the saw must be using more voltage.
It actually is not. It's still running at 20 volts. If you're familiar, and I know you are, but if the viewers are as well with our FlexVolt batteries, in order to get them into 60-volt mode on the bottom of the 60-volt tools, there's actually a mechanical switch as part of the battery and the tool foot that will put it into 60-volt mode. And that we don't have that on these tools because these are going to work off 20-volt batteries or the FlexVolt battery. So we are staying at that 20 volts, but increasing the max watts out.
But you were talking about less impedance. So that'd be the other part of it is decreasing the resistance.
Correct.
That works too.
Yeah.
That'll give you more amperage. Is that going on with FlexVolt Advantage?
Correct. Yeah. The different cell configurations in the larger batteries typically have less impedance than the 20.
There you go.
Yep.
Greater amperage.
Yep.
Okay. More power when you're cutting that pressure treated lumber. That's fine. That's cool with me as an electrician. You got to have one or the other. You got to either have greater voltage or less resistance / impedance. One or the other, or it's not gonna compute to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's go on to another viewer question here. Okay, what's the point of power protect now that FlexVolt has the Advantage?
Thinking they're meaning the power detect system that we have we launched earlier in the year.
Okay. Okay.
So what you've got are really we're trying to cater to both of our end users out there. So we have end users that have gone out and spent a ton of money buying lots of 20-volt tools, lots of 20-volt batteries.
Yeah.
That power detect system is optimized to work at its peak performance on 20-volt packs, right? So we made sure that it is set up that when you put a 20-volt pack on there and you put a larger 20-volt pack on there, we're pulling the most power we can for 20-volt packs with that system. You can put a FlexVolt pack on it still, but it's not going to increase it any extra power because we've stopped it from doing that by making sure it works perfectly with the 20-volt packs. No, these are the 20-volt with power detect. We launched, I guess it was January, February of 2020.
I see.
So we've gotten that question quite a bit. The FlexVolt Advantage tools, though, that other set of users that use 60-volt tools today and already have invested in some of that system, some of them are looking for smaller and lighter options, which we can give them in 20 volts, but they
Yes.
still need, more power than what our XR system would deliver. So this FlexVolt Advantage allows them to use the 60-volt packs that they already have with the FlexVolt packs and put them right on the tool and get that max power out of those. So we're really trying to take care of both groups, because we know that we've got a ton of users that have invested in FlexVolt. We have a ton that have invested in our 20 volt. So now they both have a way to upgrade their power using this battery identification.
I've seen some reviews. It's not 77% more power. What do you say to that?
It all depends on the application. Depending on the application, if it doesn't really require a lot of power, then it's hard to see the difference on some of these changes.
Okay.
Because if I'm just drilling a 1/4-inch hole into a piece of 2x4, it's not forcing a lot of work on the tool, right?
Yes.
So it's going to have to be those tough applications that require a lot of power, and that's where you'll see that difference. So I mentioned the circular saw. In my own experience cutting pressure treated lumber, I had to slow down a little bit with the older saw, and with the new saw I could push right through. A grinder, that's going to change a lot by depending how much someone pushes on it themselves and the force they put on it, but you'll see a lot more sparks flying off of it. Recip saw is similar, and in the drill, you got to get into your bigger applications with self-feed bits and things of that nature to start to see that difference.
How much difference would you see in the recip saw?
So that one, again, you're going to see it really on those harder applications where you maybe would bind up before the blade would start to catch. Some of the guys we tested with were using it on LVL, that pressure treated boards that are built for headers and things like that. And that's pretty tough to cut.
Yeah.
So that's what they were using it on, and they were like, oh man, yeah, this is easier. We're able to get through it faster.
Okay. Would you say 50% more power with the recip saw?
Yeah, I believe the recip saw is 50% more
50%.
power. 50%.
Okay. All right. So the grinder around 50%.
Yeah, 54, and then
54.
the drill 48.
Okay, and the drill
48% more.
48% for the drill. Okay, so very significant additional power. Do the FlexVolt Advantage tools get any extra battery life when using FlexVolt batteries as opposed to standard 20-volt max batteries?
So I guess the example here is if you had a 6 amp hour 20-volt pack and a 6 amp hour FlexVolt pack.
Okay.
If you just turn both of them on and let them run, you're probably going to have the on time be longer for your 20-volt pack, believe it or not, because we are pulling more power out of that 6 amp hour FlexVolt pack to give you more power for the application. However, because you're doing the applications faster, you're going to get more work done.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got to add that in. It's like, what's the duration of the job? If you get done faster, your tool stays cooler. The cooler it is, the less resistance it is, like we were talking about, or less impedance, and the more performance you're going to get. Right?
Correct.
Yeah, that's right on. Nate, that was great. That was an excellent discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. I always enjoy talking with you, Bill.
Okay, take it easy. Thanks a lot. I'll put links in my video description for the DeWalt FlexVolt Advantage circular saw, the DeWalt FlexVolt Advantage hammer drill, the DeWalt FlexVolt Advantage reciprocating saw, and I'll put a link for the DeWalt FlexVolt Advantage grinder. Thanks. I hope this video was helpful.